okay, in celebration of May 4th, yes, I have two different ones. The other one was the Initiative, this one is the Aeon version 3. Decided to look at the two people who really became the Darths. So we're looking at Vader versus Dooku. So again, I'm not looking at expanded universe, I'm not looking at the additional comics, I'm pretty much looking at how they acted when it came to the overall movies. So looking at Dooku up to the point of Episode 3 versus Vader, who essentially would have been the tail end of 3, he didn't do anything, as well as 4, 5, and 6. I know nothing of 7, 8, and all those. 7, 8, 9, and 10, 11, 12, potentially. I look at these from a different set of criteria: intelligence, fightability, strength, speed, durability. You also have vulnerability, energy projection, versatility, and X factor. Now, since I'm using one hand to cover an exhaust port, you'll have to take my word. I won't be doing my hand signals like I normally do. So intelligence. Vader at this time has been running the Empire as the Emperor's second-hand man for quite some time. So he has a tremendous amount of battle background, as well as his time they spent during the Clone Wars. I have to contrast that versus Count Dooku, who was a retired Jedi, who pretty much now, a lot of his battle acclimate is going to be due from his years of experience, as well as his time during the Clone Wars. The intelligence edge, I'm going to give this actually to Vader, because if nothing else, Dooku actually retired before he came back to lead up Palpatine's side, where Vader has pretty much been, from a young age, making his way all the way through, going through all the different scenarios. My computer screen just cut out, that's why I got a lot darker. Okay, here we go. So look at the intelligence edge to Vader. Fighting ability. At this point in time, Vader really hadn't had the opportunity to really fully push his overall skills for quite some time. And when it comes to the amount of Jedi, they're few and far between. I remember watching an interview where the person was discussing how the Jedi fought in the past movies, the classic trilogy, that they weren't in their peak, so they wouldn't have to have really fantastic styles. Vader didn't fight a lot of individuals. At this point in time, it was Obi-Wan and then a really poorly trained Luke. Dooku at this point in time was able to hold his own against someone like Yoda, as well as a younger Anakin, as well as Obi-Wan Kenobi. So fighting ability edge definitely does go to Count Dooku. He is somebody who, during his time, was a very fantastic swordsman, and got to the point where he didn't actually have that atrophy of skill that we see in Darth Vader. Strength. This I'm going to give it to Vader because he is, as they often call him, he's more machine than man. So this is those cybernetic enhancements that are going to allow him to have a greater level of strength than someone like Count Dooku. This is just overall raw physical strength, not including the ability to enhance yourself with the Force. So for strength, I'm going to give that side to Vader. Speed. Again, what we're seeing here is somebody who is, like I said, he's more machine than man, so he's not going to have as much quickness as somebody who is entirely human. And you see this when Count Dooku fights Yoda. Yoda is spinning like a top. And you're seeing that Dooku's doing a pretty good job being defensive against him, as well as getting some occasional offensive strikes. So with the overall speed, Dooku is definitely faster than Mr. Roboto, Darth Vader. Now we're looking at durability. This is going to be your overall stamina. Ironically, when you hear Vader, he's pretty much asthmatic. There's the constant heavy labored breathing. He can't actually keep up a tremendous amount of battle because his body just can't physically handle it. Where Dooku doesn't seem to have that issue. Dooku, again, is able to do a fairly protracted combat without having any sort of real issues due to any sort of essential physical abnormalities and physical damage that Vader's body had sustained previously. So durability edge is going to go to Dooku. Right now it is 2 for Vader, 3 for Dooku. Now we're looking at vulnerability. Ironically, Vader's body, with the cybernetics that he has, does allow him to take a decent amount of abuse. So he's pretty much wearing his own set of armor. Again, versus someone who's not wearing armor. And I'll always say someone in armor of some sort is always going to have an edge over someone who is not in armor. A couple stray shots here and there on someone like Dooku, who's wearing nothing, it's going to burn him, it's going to injure him. Those same sort of attacks on Vader are not going to be as damaging. They're going to be annoying, but they're not going to be anywhere near as damaging as these sorts of attacks on Dooku. So invulnerability edges going to go towards Vader. Energy projection. Vader didn't really use a tremendous amount of Force abilities. He never learned how to do a style of Force lightning. Can't say it's Sith lightning because technically Dooku never actually got to a Sith point. He used a slightly more adapted version, which is more like a Grey Jedi sort of lightning. So his raw energy output in that aspect, he definitely has an edge because he can do the lightning as well as do more telekinesis dropping. So I will say that when it comes to the energy projection side, just the raw damage output, it's definitely for Dooku. So if you're keeping track right now, it's 4-3. Now I'll get versatility. What other sort of things do people actually have going for them? When it comes to versatility, I'm going to give this one somewhat to Vader. Vader, while he didn't have a tremendous amount of direct skill, he still knew enough about him to use his telekinesis. I'm going to use force chokes. He learned that he had telekinesis, and that was going to be his bread and butter. So he used different ways of doing it. Might not have been these larger, more destructive things that Dooku was more known for. They were a lot more of these kind of more pinpointy sort of attacks, but using them to a much wider range. So I will give the versatility edge slightly in the edge of Vader. Now I'm going to that all-important X factor. When it comes right down to it, Vader is a win-at-all-costs sort of individual. You saw when he was fighting Luke, once he got a hold of Luke's mind, he was like, "Oh, you're his sister. Well, if I have to kill you, I'll just turn her." So he knew exactly what it would take to kind of push someone's buttons. At the same time, if he's willing to kill his son and then convert his sister, well, essentially convert his daughter to become a member of the dark side, just to have somebody to essentially be the heir to the throne of power that he had consolidated, that is someone who is willing to win and sacrifice everything for his overall goal. This was somebody who thought that his wife was going to die, knowing he could save her, was to fully commit himself to the dark side to become as strong as possible, try to save everyone that he loved. This is somebody who has the ability of being both the horrible arch-villain as well as this tragic hero at the same time. And he has that ability to do whatever it takes to be successful. And I think that's going to give him a definite edge over Count Dooku. So if Vader were to face Dooku, Vader more often than not will be able to defeat Count Dooku.